So, this was an amazing game. The question is playoff P back or MVP Paul George in OKC? Or are we just seeing another sign of inconsistency from Paul George again? If you ask me, from what I've seen in the last 2 games, I think we're going to be getting the MVP Paul George right now. That's definitely the MVP Paul George. What he's been doing in the last 2 games, even though the game before that was a little flaky, he couldn't hit no shots at all. But he been buying everything. He been passing. He been rebounding the ball better. He been doing his thing. And I see the team is following his lead. Kawhi is doing his thing too. But I feel like when Paul George play bad, they have no chance of winning. It don't even matter if Kawhi do his thing. If Paul George can't buy a shot, he can't bring what he brings to the table, what he do on the floor, they're not going to win. So to me, I think the most valuable player right now in that team is definitely Paul George. And the most important player is Kawhi, but the most valuable player right now is definitely Paul George. And I'm really proud of the coach, to be honest. Ty Lue is definitely the best coach for that team. If they had Ty Lue last time when they were in the playoff in the pandemic, that would have definitely been their ring, because I feel like when they losing and they have to come back, he keeps them in the game. And when they winning, they already winning by a lot. He keeps them in the game, which means the team don't have a chance to make a comeback. But with Doc Rivers, every time the team gets along a big lead, he would actually put the star players on the bench to rest, and that is not good. I don't like it. And with Lue, we don't get that. We get to see if you got your foot on the neck, you got to make sure you finish it off. And that's what they've been doing every time they lead. Even the games they lost, they slightly lost because Paul George couldn't buy a shot at all. But when Paul George is hitting his shots, it's over. And we're seeing it right now. The last 2 games, even all 4 games, they were the better team. They just lost the first 2 because Paul George couldn't buy a shot. But the team overall played a much better game than whatchamacallit? What's the name of that team? Than the Jazz. The Clippers definitely played a much better game in those 4 games than the Jazz. So I felt like the playoff was going to be weird anyways. But I feel like the Clippers being the underdog is definitely a much comfortable thing for Kawhi. That's when he performs better. And I feel like it's better too for Paul George, because he got this thing that, I mean, you already in the NBA, so I don't know how sometimes things get in his head and he can't hit his shot. But tonight we're seeing the greatness and how great he is. And Paul George for MVP. Keep it going.